Hey everybody, it's Matt Pinfield. Welcome to In a Lonely Place. And remember, you're never really lonely if you got music in your life. I mean, it's gotten me through everything, all the crazy stuff that's happened to me. Being hit by a car, just all the other insanity that, people are quite familiar with. But let me just say that I'm really happy to be doing this show. I love it. It started in my living room, and we did it because of the pandemic. Everybody was stuck where they were, and it was really part of the isolation. And we decided that, look, In a Lonely Place, it was a great Humphrey Bogart movie from 1950. It was a song by New Order and a song by the Smithereens with special guest Suzanne Vega. And I thought, what a perfect name for a show. And hey, since we're still in the pandemic, we said, why not keep that name? Anyway, it's a very hot day in Studio City today, and I was thinking, life has changed so much for so many of us that a year ago, I was in the middle of a 7-night run of hosting concerts at Rock in Rio in Rio de Janeiro. And a picture popped up in my memory of me riding a bicycle up and down a beach. And I thought, well, it's a little different today, but that's all right. Life keeps moving. I want to say that I'm really excited about our guest today. I love this band, and what I really love about the band is, literally 4 of the 5 guys I know have known each other since high school. And, they've done things really their way, and they've done a lot of touring, made some great EPs. And I'm excited to have our guest today from the band, The Unlikely Candidates. Let's check it out right now. It's Kyle Morris. Kyle, how are you, man?
Hello.
It's good to see you.
Hey, man. I can't hear anything.
Oh,
it was working before, but I can't hear you coming through now.
Okay, you want to maybe, Steve, can you check that out?
Yeah.
Yes.
There we go.
You hear me?
Yeah.
Can you now hear Matt?
Hey there, how are you?
Yeah, I do.
All right. See ya.
All right, thanks, Steve. See,
what's up, man?
It's always a work in progress, and that's the cool thing.
It always is. It's always an adventure doing the live stream things.
It really is. Hey, good to see you, Kyle. So how you doing, man? Where do you live in Texas? Are you near where you grew up?
I am. Yeah, I actually am. I'm like probably 25 minutes from where I grew up, and we've been based out of Fort Worth, Texas for like pretty much the life of the band. I think like 12 years.
Which is amazing. You're from a town called Keller, Texas, right? And
I am. And
you guys really, 4 of you guys all went to high school together? Is that true?
It was just me and Cole. Like me and Cole, we were just like an acoustic duo. We couldn't find nobody else in our band or in our city played music. So like we just were like, all right, well, I guess we'll just do an acoustic thing until we find somebody. And then eventually the rest of the guys came in later through different contacts.
Through like Fort Worth, like a music scene there, is that where everybody hooked up?
No, it was through like contacts in the industry, like somebody's manager knew somebody that'd try out. And then we did the whole like Craigslist thing where we had a bunch of interesting characters running through. But then finally just, through somebody who knew somebody, ended up with the team that we have now.
Now that's amazing. But the band started in 2008, and like the first EP that I became familiar with was Follow My Feet in 2013. Were you guys doing all original music from the very beginning, or were you doing some cover stuff? And were you playing?
It was basically all original from the beginning. Like we did some covers just because, at that time, covers were better than our original songs. So like
you were learning how to write, which is cool.
You got to keep them entertained. But yeah, it was all original from the beginning. That was like the intent.
One of the things I thought was really cool about what you guys have really been doing from the start that has become more of a norm than it originally was is releasing EPs, because people are finding today, just because of the amount of music that's out there and because it's being distributed so differently now, through streaming and through other sources, that it's kind of better to put out an EP a lot of times instead of an entire album.
It definitely, yeah. We are like the king of the EP. We've done 3 EPs, and EPs are cool. Like I think at this point it's just like we want to have the LP just to be like, all right, we have an LP now. But the EPs are cool because you can just, it's a lot easier to like package a singular sound and have it like super focused. So like that is one cool thing about the EP is that you can kind of like focus people on a set of songs instead of like, getting lost in 12.
So tell me about, like you guys, what it was like in school. Were there other people that were like-minded? Like what kind of stuff? I mean, we're going to talk about your 7 favorite albums towards the end.
Right.
But what was it like when it came to finding like-minded people in your school? Because country was a big influence in that area, and you guys were kind of shying away from that and listening to other things, right?
As much as we could. I think the music of our area helped shape us in the way that like we didn't want to be anything like it. Like so but no, there really wasn't any like-minded people. Like we were in a massive school and there were no musicians. So it's like me and Cole would go to like the local shows, whatever, like kind of in that late Warped Tour era. And like that was really the only connection we had to music, but like really it wasn't a lot of people coming from our school. Like our school is like it's Texas high school, so it's like people were way more concerned with like high school football than they were
Friday Night Lights, right?
It's such a real thing, and we were both kind of like we didn't really care about that whole scene, so that was kind of one of the main reasons why we started the band, was just to have something else to do on the weekend besides go to the football game.
And what kind of things were you doing? Were you and Cole like just how were you booking your first gigs? Were you like literally did you have like a demo you took around, or did you just like kind of go and
dude, back then, like sad enough, it's like you had to do the pre-sales. Like they didn't care if you couldn't play a lick as long as you sold 20. You had 25 tickets coming in. So I think we definitely did the pre-sale thing for a long time to like prove ourselves. But we had like a couple songs that were just like absolutely awful that we would send to people. And then they'd be like, cool, pre-sale, there you go. Get at it.
Right. Yeah, but that's cool. Like I always love, like I've said before about how Dave Grohl, when he said, when he was telling people, because he was kind of going against the grain of the American Idol, hey, you're being judged on your talent or how you sing. I mean, where would Bob Dylan or Morrissey or someone like that be if they had to go and sing in front of a panel? You know what I mean? They never would have made a record. So because of that philosophy is really unrock. It's not really it's not musician friendly, right? Yeah. So I love the fact that Dave Grohl had said, you're supposed to suck in the beginning. You're supposed to like, and feel your way and find your way and learn how to write songs, right?
It really is a testament to like how much you just love playing music, because we were so bad for so long. Like we would write music in like, there were different time signatures, so it would be slow and then it would speed up, because me and Cole had never written a song before. Like it really makes no sense why we decided to start a band. Like we were like 17, 18, about to like leave high school to go to college, and we're like, hey, let's spend all the time that we should be enjoying our last year and preparing for like college or something, and let's just spend 7 hours a day writing music instead.
And he just got better and better at it.
We did. Yeah, we just, for some reason, I believed in it. Like, I think maybe it was just like I was, looking back now, it seems more like I was completely delusional. Like, I was like, but from the beginning, I was like, nah, dude, we're going to make it. Like, I got it. Like, I can tell that there's something here, like, that's worth pursuing. And Cole was kind of like, I got nothing to do today.
Yeah, right.
He didn't really have the same mindset as me, but he was willing to go along for the ride. But
and now it's really happy that he did, right? He
is, yeah, absolutely.
Really great for you guys. Now, tell me about Kevin, Brenton, and Jared. I know that Josiah was in the band for a while, right? But
yes,
who ended up taking Josiah's place?
So Josiah brought Brent in because they were friends. And Brent was playing bass, but Brent's a guitar player. Brent's like an extremely good guitar player. Like I think he was like 10 or 11 when he was like playing Eruption. Like so he was really good, and we had him playing bass, which is kind of criminal for a while. And then Josiah left the band, and then Jared came in, and we didn't even know that Jared could play bass. Like literally, it was 1 week before we had to go out on like a year-long tour, and we're like, we don't have a bassist. Like, we might be screwed. And we basically just go get drunk at his house and sleep on his couch whenever we're in LA. And he's like, hey, I play bass. Like, I can play bass for you guys. And I was like, you do? And he's like, yeah. Like, let me come out and try out. And I was like, I got a week. Go give it a shot. And he came out and crushed it immediately. And I was just like, wow, that worked really well. And then we hit the road. Like,
that's great, man. Who were you touring with at that point? I know you've toured with a lot of people. I mean, you've done some great tours. First of all, who was the first tour you guys went out on?
Like, Blue October, actually.
Yeah. Aren't those guys great, man?
They're like the sweetest guys. And like, honestly, could not think of a better band to like take us under their wing and kind of show us the ropes, because like Justin's so nice and he's just like a wealth of knowledge because he's been through everything. And yeah, it was cool. And like, he's such an emotive, passionate performer, which is like very, very much in the same lineage as me. So like, I got to watch him like express like intense, like visceral emotion on stage every night. I was just in awe. I was like, this is like, I want to lose myself this much every time I hit the stage and be this passionate, and then still just be a nice guy, you know, flip the switch and go meet the fans and be, you know, which is kind of, it was a good model for us to learn from, for sure.
I think it's a great model too, because Justin, first of all, I love the guy. I mean, he actually for a while had a picture of me and him from, I think, Lollapalooza on the wall in his living room, or maybe it was from something else. But you know, I just love the band, and I love the fact that no matter what happened with the band, those guys kept soldiering on, and they just made great records, and they're still having hits, which I think makes me so happy.
Amazing. It makes me really happy too. Like that a whole new generation has introduced them, because they've done some amazing stuff.
They really have. It's great. And again, and he's real from the heart. That's one thing.
Dude, so real, so honest. Like it's inspiring. It is.
Yeah. I mean, I think we were going through one of our divorces at the same time. And we were like literally calling each other, me and him, kind of talking each other through.
Yeah.
Our heartbreak,
man. Not so good. How's your divorce going?
I know. Like, yeah, it was kind of like, oh man, you know, like we're kind of getting through. I think I maybe had gone through mine first.
Yeah.
So I was kind of talking them through. We were, you know, both, you know, and they're for each other. But he's that kind of guy. I love it.
That's awesome. And that's like a deep connection right there. So you probably, you know, you got right to the heart of Justin right there.
Yeah, he's quite amazing. That's great. So that was one of the first tours. And again, because they're such good-hearted folks, you know, they treat everybody good. It was like it was a good but it left a good taste in your guys' mouth by doing that.
Totally. And they're like a Texas band too, so it was like, you know, it's like you meet like their whole camp, and you already like know people like that are friends or family that are also like kind of like those characters. So it was like, yeah, I don't know. It was a very family thing from the beginning, which is cool. That's
great. Now, so when you did the first EP, when you did Follow My Feet, was that out when you did that tour? Was it recently? Around 2013?
It was out, yeah. It had come out like maybe like 4 months before.
And you guys hit the road with them for a while. That's cool. That's great. Now, and so was that was not, but the new bass player came in on the next tour, right? Was it like?
No, he came in that tour. Basically, we got signed, and then like we were gonna hit the road because Follow My Feet was still on the radio charts, so we kind of had to hit the road pretty quick. And he just kind of popped in right there before we took off for the first time.
Yeah,
no pressure.
That's great. So when you tour as a touring band, because you guys are definitely a band who does a lot of shows on the road. You were doing like, I don't know,
we did
100 shows a year or something like that.
You guys did like, I know that we did like well over 200.
Yeah.
Last year in 19, like we spent so much time on the road. Like,
yeah. Which is quite amazing. So what was the second tour then after that?
I think we had like a 3-day thing with like Fall Out Boy, which was just totally like, it was their like comeback tour, and the whole thing sold out in like, I don't know, like 40 seconds or something. And I guess the person that they had on the tour was spitting on fans, so they booted him and they called us and they're like, "Hey, you guys want to do this?" And we're like, "Yeah, yeah, definitely." And we went out there and played like I think it was 3 or 4 like sold out shows to like a bunch of screaming teenagers. It was like, dude, it was like Beatles mania. Like,
Yeah.
we didn't know who we were, and when we hit the stage, it was like deafening. I was like, well, this is nice. I will coast on these coattails gladly.
Yeah, like they were a kind audience. They weren't.
No, they were awesome. Yeah, it was a great little like 4-date run.
Yeah, which is cool. You know, I think that's great. Now, so you toured for a while on the first EP. So at the time, for Bed of Liars, when it came time to make your second EP,
yeah,
what was the mindset when it came to songwriting at that period of time?
Well, it was really weird. It was like we basically, like, the first EP was just very personal, and like I spent a lot of time on lyrics and like really just trying to make stuff that was just like very like kind of beyond the normal fray of songs, like very existential, like what it's like to be like a human being, like really kind of like very lyrical and spelt out. And when that didn't really work for Fall on My Feet, I kind of got discouraged, and I was like, we finished that tour, and the label was like, "Hey, you guys don't really have anything else, so you need to go home." Basically, I got the feeling like you either go home and like write something new that we haven't heard before, or we're gonna drop you guys.
Wow. So it was like a make or break moment at that point.
Totally, it was absolutely like put up or shut up moment. And our guitarist Brent, like, I knew that he could produce, but he was like 19, so like I had no idea. And like I was like, "Hey man, like we're home, like why don't you try and do like some production things?" And he just sat down and started making like some of like the newest, freshest sounding stuff that like I had ever heard. And literally we hit the ground running and wrote like 60 songs. We're doing 3 songs a week, like start to finish. Wow. And like, yeah, it was like blistering. Like it was like factory shifts. He would work during the day, then I would tag in and work till like 6 o'clock in the morning, and we just kept doing that day after day for like 6 months.
Yeah, I think that's pretty amazing. And then so out of 60 songs, 6 end up on that EP, A Bed of Liars.
Yeah, and there was
the name Bed of Liars too. I thought that was a great name.
It was good. Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, we pulled that from a quote from like one of the songs, so that worked out. I didn't have to think too hard. Cherry pick my own work.
Yeah, Your Love Could Start a War. Such a great single.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I love that song. That was kind of like, I love like writing songs that are like blues based, but you would never have any idea. Like they show no signs of being bluesy. Almost like, like Kasabian, where it's like they're very much blues, but like their sound is so like, the sonics are so different that you almost wouldn't be able to pick it up. Like that was kind of Love Can Start a War. And I was like, this is a whole sweet spot of sound right here.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned Kasabian too, because I love that song Underdog. You ever hear that
song?
Good.
Yeah, so good.
It's got that crazy bass thing, and it's got that groove.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? It's like, and it changes like at the end of the, I know, like Kasabian are a really cool band. They really are,
Such a cool band. Yeah, and we're very, we love our English bands. We love our English rock bands, so.
Speaking of English rock bands, today is the 25th anniversary of What's the Story Morning Glory.
I know. I saw that, and I was like, that is amazing that is today.
Isn't that amazing? I just can't believe it's 25 years already. But so tell me about like some of the other songs on the album, like Ringer, I really like, and Best Things in Life Aren't Free.
Yeah.
Which, of course, the lyrics to that one are really
a little twist right there.
Yeah.
Ringer was cool. Like you remember that like rapper Krayshawn?
Yeah.
So I tried to imagine that I was writing a song about Krayshawn.
Yeah.
And that's how I came up with that song. And like almost like you're in love with some like drug dealing hustler girl.
Yeah.
Like way more cool and like more powerful than you, and like you're just trying to like I guess, be good enough to put a ring on her finger. But like the whole thing was also about just like I guess the American dream and how like you really can't ever achieve it because it's not really made to be achieved. It's like this carrot that's like always hung over your head. And that was kind of like I drew the comparison between like the American dream and the girl like you know, like they're both too much of a hustlers for it to ever like be something that you can actually have. So yeah, I try to do like one layer for people where it's like easy for them to like be like, oh, it's a nice like relationship song. And then another layer that's like a little bit deeper that's kind of got that stuff going on. But now people just get married to it. So I think maybe I missed the boat on both swings there.
Does that blow your mind? So you actually know that for a fact that people have gotten married to the song?
We've had people propose on stage to the song, and I'm like, you know, I'm like, this is beautiful. This song's about a drug dealer, but
that
tough. You know?
That is an amazing. Did you ever say that when you were talking about it, or
I mentioned it like a bunch of times, but like, you know, people hear that one little bit, they're like, she's a ringer, put a ringer, you know, like they're like, cool, I'm gonna get married to this. I'm like, blessings.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, isn't it amazing how, you know, people interpret songs songs are made to be interpreted individually.
Totally. It's theirs. Once you put it out, it's theirs.
Yeah.
You know, as long as it finds a place in their life, I'm happy about that.
That's great. Now, we were talking about best things in life aren't free, and that twist on that.
Yes. So that one was like another. I was reading like this book at the time called Taipei by this artist Tao Lin, who was like part of this crop of like writers that wrote like a bunch of like Twittery stuff. Like basically these kids were just like super geeked out on the internet and Xanax and Adderall. So like they would write very like, it was almost like they were like human computers. Like everything that they would type felt disassociated and like, I don't know, like they would compare things to like internet searches or like say that their brains ran like computers or like, it was almost like Tumblr on high. It was like Stone Tumblr basically. Yeah. And I kind of wrote that song in the same frame of mind. We were out in California writing and I was taking, you know, some of the Xanax and things and like going out to like the bars and stuff like that, and I just kind of felt like I wasn't even there, and that kind of informed this song where like basically the ethos of the song is like that nothing is real, like the only things that are real are what you can like physically feel. Like love isn't real, it's just a chemical connection. Like people aren't real, they're just things that kind of like move around you in different like kind of different combinations of rattling phrases. And so it's like it's a pretty cynical song, but I kind of wrote it like half as just like a thought experiment.
Yeah,
like I built like this weird little like world of, you know, people just kind of bouncing into each other in this party scene.
Yeah. So talk to me about life for the band around that time, to a Bed of Liars, because all of a sudden Your Love Could Start a War came out, Ringer was on the record. I mean, it was a great 6-song EP. Then the record company was cool. They were like, hey, this is happening now.
They were, well, like basically what happened was, which is kind of nuts, like we were about to go to radio with Ringer at Atlantic. And then 2 major people within the organization had strokes.
And I know one of them was a guy that I'm super close to, that I knew. I introduced him to his wife. I know they're no longer together, but Ron Poor.
Yeah, Ron Poor. Ron Poor had a stroke, and he was the head of all at Atlantic.
Yeah, I was really. I mean, I was very upset about it.
Super sad, and he's a super nice guy. And so, like, basically, we were about to get stuck in like a holding pattern again, and we basically just told the label, we're like, hey, like, can we go? Like, we kind of need, because we'd been sitting there for 3 years trying to write a single that they would be like push to radio, that we could like go and like do the whole thing, basically like start our career again. And that happened, and it looked like it was going to be like another year at least to get back out. So we're like, Atlantic was awesome. They let us go. Like our like our A&R there, Steve Robertson. I don't know if you know him.
I know, yeah.
He's an amazing guy, and he helped us transition like out of there, and like there was no bad blood. It was a really good. It was a very clean mutual breakup.
Yeah.
And then we took Love Can Start a War to radio independently, and then through that we got to deal with Another Century, which I know you know that camp as well, like Don Robertson and stuff like that.
Mike Gitter, yeah, and those guys. Yeah, those are great dudes, you know.
Awesome guys, and they really believed in us, and they put out Ringer, and then that was kind of like the legacy of Bed of Liars. It's a long one.
Yeah, and it was good that they ended up putting that out, which is really cool. And I can't go show it out mentioning a guy that we love, Renee Mata. This guy, I don't go through a show without mentioning Renee, because Renee's connected.
Hey, Renee. You know, he's
Renee love, because, you know, he's one of my best friends in the world. And I love that you guys are connected to Renee as well.
It's awesome. Yeah, he works with our buddies, this production group called The Heavy.
Yeah.
And we usually hang out with them and him, and it's always nice seeing Renee.
Yeah, it's cool. You know, I hung out with your guys, your production team, The Heavy guys. We all had Mexican dinner together one time when Renee was in town. But of course, nobody's seen anybody. I think the last time was the Grammys, when Grammys were in town. That's the last time everybody was in LA, and you know, everybody's been where they are since then.
That is a long time ago.
So talk to me about. So now you're on a new label. What was the next tour that you guys ended up doing at that period of time?
What is the next tour? I'm not gonna lie, we've just done a lot of like tours by ourselves. Like that was what we usually had to end up doing. But we did more recently. We did the Goo Goo Dolls. We opened up for the Goo Goo Dolls.
Yeah, who are so great.
That was super nice guys. So nuts playing, you know, hearing Iris every night. You know,
so
I like walk around. I like walk around the theater, and while Iris is playing, like everyone's face is just like glossed over with nostalgia.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter, like concessions, like people at the door, security, like they're all like just zoned out, like mouthing the words to Iris. I'm like, this is bizarre. Like this song is massive.
It is, you know. And John Resnick was one of our earliest guests here on In a Lonely Place when I was still stuck in my apartment by myself, you know, and it was coming through, but it's good. So now I'm just stuck in a kind of a big studio.
It looks dope.
It's cool, isn't it, man? We got the board behind. I mean, you know,
I like that. No, it's legit. They showed your screen. I was like, oh man, my screen kind of sucks. I need to I go put a poster up there. I was like, all right.
Well, you should have seen mine in my house after a while. We put a few cold records up and then moved a few posters. I mean, we just, you know, move stuff around, same thing. And then eventually I realized,
you know, it's like I've seen too many people get dragged for having boring Zoom backgrounds. So like now it's in my head, you know? Yeah.
Well, there's nothing worse than those Zoom backgrounds that you get that are, you know, the ones that you put on like of the Golden Gate Bridge or, you know.
Oh my God.
And your head's melting into it. You know, it looks really, it's like, it just looks like some bad cheesy like video from like that's like some 70s band is playing with the effects like Black Sabbath on Beat Club in like
a bad karaoke background.
Yeah, it's really funny, that stuff.
Yeah, I should have used that one. I usually do it just to annoy people. The little background thing. They're all like, there he is again.
You know, I give people a lot of credit that actually take the time to create really funny ones and cool ones. You know what I mean?
I've seen some good ones.
Yeah, you know, people have like like an old like 50s TV screen or something cool that their head will be in. But now let's get back. So talk to me about getting together with Dirty Heads and doing Celebrate, because that was such a great song. And tell me about the friendship, because those guys are such great, cool guys.
Really, really dope guys. That was a really fun tour. They've got a lot of really fun fans. It was a lot of fun. Like, you know, it's always kind of a party with the Dirty Heads, which was like awesome. That's very much our style too. So we wrote this song with the Heavy actually, and the song called Celebrate, and it was kind of just about being a sad rock star. Like I've made it, and now I feel like kind of far away and disconnected from my past, and I'm surrounded by like these kind of fake shiny things, and it's about kind of like missing mom, missing home, like the things you used to know. And it was funny because like a year before we wrote that song, I think I was homesick on the road, and I was talking to Jared from the Dirty Heads, and literally we had an hour-long conversation about just kind of how hard it is to be away from like family and like life on the road and being stuck in like a small space with a bunch of smelly dudes. And it was like it was one of the best conversations I'd had with any of the other bands. And like, he gave me like a hug before he went on stage. I was like, good luck, bro. Like as he was about to go on, and he just came up and like hugged me and like ran out. And I was like, what a nice man. And basically it was funny that eventually that song that we ended up working on together literally was that conversation manifested. Like we wrote this song. It was more like sad rock star thing. They heard it because they were writing with the Heavy too. And they were like, yo, this like resonates with us deeply. We're going to write like verses on it about basically like missing important birthdays and like missing your parents dying, like basically all the things that you miss being on the road away from the ones you love.
Yeah. Well, it came out great. And you talk about the Dirty Heads. It's a great song. And Dirty Heads being party guys. I remember this pre-stage ritual of shots of like, I don't know whether it was tequila or...
Yeah, man.
Did you guys do that? Because like everybody gets...
Huh? Yeah. Sean did he read the poem that he wrote?
Yeah, he read the poem. Let's tell everybody about that story because it's great. Reads the poem. Everybody does a shot before they go to the stage. And we did this in Jacksonville, Florida, I think it was. Welcome to Rockville, which was one of the Danny Wimmer festivals a long time ago. Or it might have not been. It might have been like the radio station down there, the alternative station. But I just remember doing the ritual with those guys. Of course, I'm sober now, but it was like we had a blast. Those guys are a lot of fun, right?
Dude, so much fun. Yeah.
What can you remember about that poem?
Dude, Sean, like I would hang out with Sean a lot because like we did the tour with them, like partially so that I could sing the chorus to Celebrate during like the show. But like also like they went and did some radio promo stuff, and I flew out with them. Like I was kind of like in the Dirty Heads for like a couple weeks, which is really cool. Got to live that bus life.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was so Sean would do these little like funny poems that he would write during the day every single show. He'd have a new one for every different like city, and they're always hilarious and super creative, and he reads them in his big like bard announcer voice.
Yeah.
And everyone does the shot. It's a magical little tradition.
It is great. I'm glad they included me in that one day. It was pretty funny. And then I walked out with a camera onto the stage. But
they're always good.
They said there was no way I could get out of that back room without doing it. Of course, now it would have to be like a soda shot. But I mean, it's so... Oh,
we're there for the poem. We're there for Sean's poem. Really.
Yeah, his poem is
that's the star of the show.
I just thought that was cool. What a fun way to have like on the road ritual. It was cool, you know.
One of my favorites for sure that I've seen.
You know, I love the title to the next EP, which is "Danger to Myself."
Yes.
Talk to me about that because you know that I love. Because
it's about some self-destructive tendencies, essentially. Yeah. That was that whole, I mean, I think I was coming off of like we'd been touring for years at that point. And like, I'm sure that you've like had that feeling before where like you kind of have momentum and you just can't slow down. Like you're in that party scene, you're doing it. And like it basically like you kind of get tunnel vision a little bit. And you start to lose yourself and your better judgments, and you're just kind of like on a roll.
Yeah. And when things stop, when things stop, you can't slow down. You're like, oh, wait a minute.
Oh. Yeah, you get like vertigo.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. And that's kind of what that album, all their that EP, all those songs were kind of about.
Yeah, I mean, and oh my dear Lord, what a great track and a great single that was.
Thanks, man.
Talk to me about that song too. I love
that. That was literally like the pinnacle of that run of behavior. I think that was everybody's had that moment where they've drank too much or they've like pushed themselves too far, and they have that moment where like, I swear to God, if I can just get out of this night, like if I can just like survive this night, I swear to God, I'll never do this again. And that was literally what that song was. It was like basically having that epiphany that like it's it's your moment of reckoning, basically. Yeah,
I got to put the brakes on, right?
I gotta like change things. Yeah. And that was that whole song is about that moment. Because it's like, I'm not really religious. I'm not religious, but I'm not religious.
Yeah.
And like, I guess that like, oh my dear Lord was basically like asking whatever like presence or like, you know, you're basically speaking into the void, whatever you believe in or don't believe in, asking that to like help you get out of that moment, basically.
Yeah. And I think that's great. It turned out awesome.
Thank you.
So it's great. You know, band starts in 2008, 2019, 11 years later, your song, which took, I love that it took a long time to get there.
Yeah, me too.
Like it was a real steady climb. But
that's true. Yeah.
Made it all the way to #1, which was so great with Novocaine. Let's talk. Tell me about that song and about that experience. How exciting it was when you realized that this song was really starting to skyrocket, and it was like one of those things where you just got to get out of the way. It's happening. Tell me about it.
We really knew that was going to be a make or break song. You know what I mean? Because we'd swung so many times at the fences, and like you do after a while, you get that feeling where you're just kind of worn out. You're like, yo, this like doesn't connect. It's like, you know, who knows what's going to happen to the future trajectory of this band? Like, and it just like basically all the underdog cards were on that song, and it panned out. And like, we just kind of kept our heads down and worked our asses off. Like we worked our asses off. That was the year that we did like 250 plus shows, like visited all the radio stations, signed every autograph, like basically literally everything humanly possible to add inertia to that song. And it paid off.
I mean, I was so happy for you guys when it went to #1. It was a great moment, you know?
It really was.
And
it really was.
So tell me about that run of shows. You were headlining quite a few of them, right? But then some were radio shows, some were. Was there any other like twin headliner bills that you were doing at that time?
That was we did 3 like tours that we weren't headlining, and it was like the Score, the Goo Goo Dolls, and then Marianas Trench.
Yeah.
And then we did like a ton of different radio shows.
Yeah. But 200 shows in a year, I mean, that's the thing that's crazy about, you know, when you're a touring band like you are and you like to be busy. I mean, my heart goes out to you and to all the other musicians that I listen to, that I love and or I'm friends with, and just feel like, you know, I know it's that shock, that kind of culture shock. How was that for you? And were you using that time to like do some writing, create new songs, hang with your loved ones? What have you been doing in that period of time?
You mean during the touring run?
No, during the pandemic.
Oh, pandemic.
Like
I think the first couple months, I think that we were all just kind of like so exhausted
and decompressing, right?
So yeah, we had been touring for so long that like I couldn't even sit still at home. Because when you're moving so much and you like stop, like you get that itch, like you can feel like your mind moving away from you. And it took a little bit for that to settle in. And then I just got to be lazy for a while, which was nice. I needed that. I need my lazy time. And then I decided, I was like, all right, cool. It's time to start writing. We already had High Low set up for a single. So I was like, let's just write songs that we want to be on the album. Like songs that we like wouldn't necessarily spend as much time writing. Let's just write stuff that we like really enjoy feeling. And that's kind of what I've been doing for the rest of the pandemic.
Yeah. That's
just
amazing.
Really dope, like self-indulgent songs.
Well, I can't wait to hear them. But, you know, let's get back to High Low, which lyrically, for me, was almost like you predicted how people would be feeling during the pandemic. I mean, because the song's about isolation. It's about
was weird.
Human contact, and talk to me about that.
It was really weird that because I wrote that like 2 days before like the virus had come to America, and I just happened to write a song about like somebody being isolated in their apartment, missing all of their friends. And I was like, so when everything happened, I was like, what a weird, timely thing to happen. I rewrote a lot of the lyrics during pandemic to like, and it reflected a lot of like what I was doing, which was a lot of nothing, sitting at home, watching Netflix and drinking and being bored and, missing my friends and stuff. But the song is actually about basically when you come home from tour after a long time, kind of like I did, you come home and realize that kind of everybody's moved away. Like they've moved on. People move on without you when you're not there. That's a sad thing about being a musician and trying to have like relationships is like people, it's like out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
And, it's about coming home and being like, all my friends are married and moved away and have jobs, and I'm just kind of like the sad rock star boy sitting in here with my champagne and my leopard boots on, watching Netflix.
But I love the song, the juxtaposition of the high and low, and it's a cool song, you know what I mean, about what people feel.
Thanks, man.
Great. And I'm looking forward to the new tracks as well. Now I want to get into some of your favorite albums of all time and the things.
Oh, yeah.
And I love this. I know it's always hard because we ask for 7 albums, and I know it's so tough to pick 7. So, I mean, let me put it this way. I will explain. When I wrote my book, my memoir, all these things that I've done, and I went through the decades, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, because the book came out in 2016, was written in 2015, I wrote it. I went back and went, oh, man, how did I forget that album? Oh, gee, that was supposed to be, that's one of my favorite albums of the 60s, of the 80s. How could I leave that out? It happens. But, I mean, that's one of the things. It's almost like I just had to, like, say, make or break. It's it's like the Spielberg line. He said, I don't make movies, I finish them, or something like that, or whatever it was. There was this funny line he had about
– ball and quote right there.
Yeah. Yeah. But, but I got to say, you picked great stuff. So I'm going to start with what's it? Yeah. I mean,
I appreciate that. It was tough. It was really tough.
Now, let's start with the Strokes.
Yeah.
And Is This It? And what a great record. Of course, the original cover was a controversial. It had like a body and a
little sexy,
little sexual thing there.
It's a great album cover.
Yeah. And,
America was not having it, but
yeah, of course, America wasn't cool with it. The UK was at the time, but it's such a great debut album. Tell me why it's important to you.
I mean, there's a certain kind of like hazy melancholy. Like honestly, I think the thing that appealed to me first was just like the sound. Like I felt like I was stepping into Julian Casablancas like day drunk daydream, like rambling through the streets of New York City, like feeling like, he has the world in the palm of his hand, but could lose it for any reason at any second. Mostly probably just because he wanted to. So I don't know, like there was something about that feeling of like melancholy that the album had that I was like, I don't think I'd ever been more addicted to a sound in my entire life. Like, just a hazy kind of daydream of an album.
Yeah, it definitely has that, and it's such a classic. It still holds up.
And they were cool. Like, it's just such a cool album. Like, everything he says is cool. How he's like crooning is cool. It's just like it was just the coolest album. I'd probably listen to it more than any other album.
Yeah, and I love that you use that word croon because it definitely is. It's kind of cool. It's like a hip crooning way of singing that Julian was using on that record, I thought.
Oh, yeah. Like, I'd never heard anything like it before, really. Like, there is really nothing like his croon.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's his own thing for sure. Yeah. Now, the next album that you picked was the third album by Gorillaz, and, Plastic Beach. Well, that's a really cool record. And, I recently I was being interviewed for another TV show music's greatest mysteries, and one of them was about, is Jamie Hewlett Banksy? You know what I mean? Because there's all this stuff that they think he could be Banksy, or him, or Robert from Massive Attack, or
I've heard that one. I've heard the Massive Attack one.
Yeah, and it's really funny because supposedly Banksy has connections to companies owned by Jamie. I'm not sure if any of that's true, but I do know Gorillaz were great what they put together, what Jamie and Damon Albarn were able to do.
Like, I love, like, really nobody else has done anything like that, and I still think it was like the coolest thing ever. I still do, because it makes it timeless, because you have an avatar that never ages, so he can just continue to release like stuff through these immortal characters forever. It's like such a cool concept.
Yeah, and that was a great record. I mean, it's funny. When the second album came out, I was still doing A&R Columbia Records, and Danger Mouse and I had become friends.
Yeah,
so the album over to me and played me the entire second record in my office when it was done.
So good.
And when this record came out, I'll tell you, I was doing a morning show in New York City, and Damon had asked me if I wanted to introduce Gorillaz on stage at Madison Square Garden. So I said, yeah, man, of course. I went there, and I saw Damon backstage, and I go, Damon, man, thanks for asking me to do that. He goes, oh, man, come on, we came up together. Because I remember the first Blur show.
Yeah.
I came to my little radio station in the Jersey Shore near Asbury Park area with Blur, and it was so cool because I'm standing backstage there, and it's Bobby Womack who's on the record.
Yeah,
and Paul Simon and Mick Jones of The Clash. It's like all the guys, like all the different people that were on the record. It was beautiful. It was like this cool thing. Everybody's kind of hanging out right before the show. I went out on stage at the Garden, introduced them, Plastic Beach Tour. It was a magical night, man.
So crazy, dude.
Tell me why you love the album. Like, what are some of the things about it that you love?
There's something about, I mean, like, there's always been something about his voice that's always resonated with me. I think it's the same thing as the Casablancas. It's that soulful croon. It's just so rich in emotion, and it sounds so cool at the same time. And one thing I love about the Gorillaz and this album is because he literally built a world. Like, the whole album is a world. Like, he literally built a world out of, like, sound and used these, like, little songs as, like, little, pieces of it. And I thought that was, like, the coolest thing ever. I always love the collaborations that he has. I think that's, like, genius. And this is his first, like, real collab album. I don't know, man. I just loved it. Like, the same thing, that kind of melancholy, the world building, the features. It's just like, it's one of my favorites of all time, for sure.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Next, you picked Oasis, and, I'm a huge Oasis fan. I love them. And those first two albums are just, will always be so important to me as well. Yeah. This record, there's a great documentary that I think, maybe it was originally on the BBC or something, or ITV over there, but it's on YouTube and it's free to watch. It's the making of Definitely Maybe. It's definitely worth watching. It's really cool about how they started the album over and, couldn't find the right guy to mix. And there was all this different stuff that went on. But this record is such an important album. Tell me why you love it.
It's just like rock and roll incarnate to me. Like, it's kind of, I guess I'm noticing like a theme that I love all these like kind of dreamy, like day drinky sounding albums, but like, I don't know, there was nobody cooler on the planet than them at that time, at least in mine and their own opinion, yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I love like, there's something like their melodics are like incredible. The lyrics about like kind of the working man, like making it. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, the whole album is just like champagne and cigarette soaked, and I love it.
Yeah. Oh, it's such a great album. And Live Forever is just an all-time classic. Holds up as like just one of the great songs.
It really does. I've listened to that one countless times too. It's probably my second most listened to album.
Yeah, I hope one day they get back together again. It's amazing.
Oh, man.
You never know. It could happen. But
I hope so. They'll be like 70 or something.
Yeah, but they may do it for the money at some point. Who knows?
Yeah,
Not like they need it. Not like they need it. I mean, I think definitely maybe. I mean, no, What's Their Morning Glory is one of the biggest selling albums, third or fourth or fifth of all time in the UK.
I believe it. Yeah,
one in every 9 person owns it. And I'm sure definitely maybe he's not too far behind that. Which is
I wish it was like that here. I know that they didn't really have a ton of play over here during that time. I mean, they're obviously massive, but
yeah. I mean, I had them on 120 Minutes on MTV twice during that cycle, and the album sold 4 million here, which is pretty good, considering. But of Morning Glory, but yeah, definitely maybe it's a great debut album. Just kicking off with Rock and Roll Star. Now you picked the 5th Bob Dylan album, Bringing It All Back Home, which is just such a cool record. And I always love that album cover with him in the.
I love that album cover so much.
It's really badass, isn't it? It's cool.
Cat.
I mean, and it kicks off with Subterranean Homesick Blues, which is just
arguably. I know that people have tried to argue that that's one of the genesises of rap music. I've heard people say that because he's kind of rapping the whole time. It's kind of yeah. I love that song. Have you seen the music video for it where he's just in the alley
and he's selling a piece of paper, and years later In Excess did that with they took their song Need You Tonight on Kick and then Mediate, the second part, they just imitated. They stole that, and that was
such a cool classic
original thing, beat poet inspired, the whole
thing man
done. And that album with Maggie's Farm and It's All Right Mom, I'm Only Bleeding, and things like that. It's just
to me that's his most rock and rollish album, I guess you could say. Yeah. Or at least one of. Yeah. I love that one. I mean, he was just he's so prophetic, and I've spent countless hours going through his lyrics trying to analyze what he meant, and some of my psychedelic era probably matched up with his and how old we were at the time, and I was completely obsessed with Bob Dylan and the way that he kind of shaped I guess popular music thematically and really bringing poetry in it to the front of it. For he was one of the first to really do that in a big way.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's amazing when I think that he used to sit on a typewriter and sit on an old school typewriter and write all his lyrics.
Oh, yeah.
Which is pretty.
It makes me want to get a typewriter, but then I'm I don't.
I know somebody has a typewriter. It's I went I think it was could it be that when I was living in San Francisco, that there was a typewriter exhibition in the airport, and it was really cool because it was a bunch of people. So I think one of Jack Kerouac's was in there. Or,
that's kind of cool.
Somebody like that, and maybe one of Dylan's. I'm not sure, but
I thought it was just
there's a typewriter museum. Oh, what were you gonna say? Sorry.
That's cool. Okay, that's cool. I for some reason thought that just a bunch of people brought their typewriters to the airport, and I was that's weird. That'd
be really weird. Yeah, man, it's a typewriter refuge.
We're having a convention here. You're all right. Cool.
Yeah, it's funny because I literally walked around. I remember it, and I can't remember what year it was. And it was they were on these stands and boxes, and it was this was Jack Kerouac's, and this was Dylan's, and pretty cool actually.
That's pretty awesome.
It
really is many famous words have been pounded on those keys.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. Now you picked the next is your Beatles album, and it's great because obviously.
It felt like a really safe pick. I was like, is this too boring? But I love this album. It's
so do I. And you know what I always say to people? One of the reasons why the White Album is one of my favorite Beatles albums because there's more of it.
Yeah, really. There's so many songs on there. I was I'm kind of getting a 2-for-1 here. Yeah, I love this album. I think one of the big things for our band is we never get tied down to a sound. We always followed the song before the sound. So, and the Beatles are a band that have always done that. And same thing with Blur. Yeah. Blur has always done it where they skip genres, constantly going from and we like doing the same thing. I have a neo soul song, and then I have a West Coast hip hop influenced song, and then we've got the big anthemic whatever, and then a little stoner jam. I'm I think that I think I learned a lot of that from the Beatles, or maybe just embraced it more within ourselves after listening to the Beatles.
Oh yeah.
So that was pretty seminal in like my music understanding.
Yeah, that's great, and I get it. And that's why I love that with those albums they've had, always taking you on a journey and,
Totally.
different things happening there, so influential. Now,
Yeah.
Bright Eyes, it's amazing because when Conor Oberst released this album, he released two albums at the same time.
Yeah.
But I'm Wide Awake, It's Morning was the one that you picked and loved. Tell me what it is about this record that you love so much.
Man, it was like, it's kind of like on the other side of Dylan, how Dylan is just kind of like projecting, like Connor kind of looks within himself. Like he's such an amazing student of like human nature by just kind of looking in himself and reflecting out. And that's like really something that I've taken to heart. And like, just like kind of how honest and poetic the songs are. Just as far as a lyric writer, the way that he thinks about the concept of a song was something that I always really admired and kind of looked at. Because really, I want to like state. You always want to say something that's so true that like everyone is just like, it like is like heart stopping. And he has a lot of those moments, and like that's why I've always respected him a lot. And this album has just got like the most, like a lot of really, really good ones on it.
Yeah, he's great, Connor. He's
a genius. Yeah, boy genius.
It's amazing to think of him starting out and doing all that stuff. And, whether it's Bright Eyes, or Monsters of Folk, solo stuff. Like, I love that first album with Cape Canaveral. And I don't want to go to the hospital. Like he always say, like he just like, but he can do anything. You know what I mean? And
pretty much.
But which is very cool. Now the last record that you picked was introducing us. Speaking of Georgia, by the way, you were saying
shout out to my Dungeon family.
Yeah, is your family down? So your family's in Georgia, not too far out of Atlanta.
Yeah, they're like it's like an hour or 40 minutes from Atlanta. They're in Ackworth, Georgia. It's where my family's been from for like 120 years. They own some like land out there that they farmed on and stuff. And yeah, so a little Atlanta connection. Maybe that had a little bit to do with the next pick.
Which is Outkast. And let's talk about this one. Big Boy and Dr. Dre present. Exactly. Tell me why you love this record, because this is going back to the beginning.
When I was like 13 years old, I had heard Miss Jackson.
Yeah.
And that song just changed my life. I don't think I ever stopped playing in my head for like 3 years.
So were you did you actually go out and buy Speaker Box Love Below and that stuff back then?
I bought this one because it was right when like parental advisory happened.
Yeah.
I had to trick my parents into buying this. They were up at the shopping line, and I just kind of put it in the cart, and they didn't. I don't even think I think I put it on the scanner thing.
Yeah.
And they were in between the bananas and the ice cream, and that was how I got it. And there's a pretty explicit image on the CD, on this CD.
Yeah.
Pretty sexually explicit, and I just put little stickers, little skateboarding stickers over it, so my parents wouldn't know. But 13-year-old me was obsessed with this album, which is really random, but just something about how soulful and weird the album is, and so campy and ridiculous. And Andre 3000 is without a doubt one of the best rappers that's ever lived, and his flows are hypnotic and unbelievably impressive. And I was just I was obsessed with this album.
Yeah, well, because it has it has everything, right? I mean, it's got stuff from all those different records on it.
All of them, yeah.
And who did a cool cover of Miss Jackson? The Vines. Do you remember that band? They did.
Yeah, of course. Did they? I haven't heard that.
They did cover Miss Jackson. What a great song it is! But I love that everything's on.
Yeah, that album's
yeah,
because there's so much fun in the album too, and to not take things too seriously, but it still be on the level of high art was pretty dope that they could pull that off.
Yeah, it's I love the record, and though they're just such a they've always been very cool,
Dude, dynamic.
It's and so like I just got to tell you, this went so quickly, man. I cannot believe it's already 3:00 and we're already done. This is nuts. I mean, it went so quickly. It was good hanging with you, man.
Time flies, dude. Time flies when you're having fun, right?
It does. Absolutely, Kyle. It's great. So, Kyle, what's up next? What can we tell people? I mean, about right now you're writing songs. Are you going to do any like recording and think about releasing anything? But coming up before the end of the year, or are you going to just keep the songs and wait and see?
I think we're just going to keep doing high-low, keep pushing on that. We may go to like LA to do like some kind of like elaborate live stream performance in like a sound stage, and then trying to work on getting like a drive-through show. Like I just want to play one drive-through show, get a little taste of glory to be able to say that like I got one over on 2020.
Yeah.
But that's about it, man. Like we're setting up an album for like Q1 of next year. So really I'm just like filling in songs, just trying to make our first album, first LP as dope as possible.
That's great. Well, we look forward to it, man. It'll be great, Kyle.
Yeah, man. And I would love to kick it whenever this is all over. Me and today and the heavy. Let's go get some Mexican food.
Yeah, we'll do that, man. We'll do a replay. And you'll come and we'll have a good time with that. It'll be great.
I'm down.
Listen, Kyle, thanks for joining me today, man. I really had a great time having
me, man. I really appreciate it.
And, yeah, much love to you and the band, and say hi to the rest of the guys for me.
I will. Thanks.
You got it. Thanks, Kyle, man. Have a great weekend. Thanks
for having me.
That was awesome. That was great, guys. Hanging out right there with Kyle Morris from the Unlikely Candidates. And boy, time flies when we're having fun right here on In a Lonely Place. Remember, you're never lonely if you got music in your life. It's got me through everything, man. It's like, what they say, the up and down side of everything. You know what I mean? Falling in love, breakups, whatever it is. I don't know, things that go on in your life. But it's just such a great time to spend with you and hang out for an hour and talk to great musicians and artists that I love and that you love, and talk about their favorite music and what's going on in their lives. That's what we do here. Anyway, I will be back with you next week with Scott Holiday from the band Rival Sons. Will be joining us, and we'll be hanging out with him for an hour next Friday. Once again, it is happening 5 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 p.m. Pacific, and I really appreciate you joining me today. Once again, I'm Matt Pinfield from Rolling Live Studios, and I want to thank Chris Trevero, Laura Diaz, of course, the great Steve, who engineers, makes sure everything goes right, Alyssa and Carrie and everybody who makes the show happen. Thanks so much for all your hard work on it. We will see you soon. Thanks so much for watching.